Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the Dracovin Empire. Are you ready to head through the mists once again to dive into the realms, the Demiplanes of Dread, Ravenloft again? I hope you are. We're going to be meeting another Darklord today. This one is technically one Darklord, not two, as we've visited sometimes in recent past, but one that history changes. Huh? Well, interesting. If you're ready to travel to the mists, I can guide you. I can pierce your host and guide your Tantus Average Code. Remember to tip me, like, subscribe, ring the bell, and let me know what you think of our Dark Hazlik. The Mist's Call. Ravenloft is ready for us as we descend into the Demiplanes of Dread once more. Oh, Hazlik. An interesting man. One who's improved when it comes to 5th edition. Though the story is great. But if I were to research Hazlik, learn more about him, perhaps some stats to use, more about his domain, story elements you could use when using him, well, there are 2 books. Of course, Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft is always a standard for 5th edition. But the Domains of Dread from AD&D, it's AD&D 2nd edition, technically, is a great place to look into the stats of Hazlik. Know about him. Who is Hazlik? And his domain, of course, of Hazlik. Hazlan and Hazlik. Look, he's not great at naming things. I think the interesting thing about his, regardless of story, he is a red wizard of Thay. So he's intrinsically connected to Forgotten Realms. We've kind of hit up on some of the other Darklords I've done videos for before in the past, that other ones come from other domains and places sometimes what we know about, but intrinsically keeping Ravenloft very Forgotten Realms was one of the things they kind of did in 5th edition. That's why him being a res wizard, completely fine. And I'm going to kind of say now, before we kind of dive into this strange old wizard man, red wizard, he's kind of better. 5th edition version. But let's dive into the 2 versions. That'll kind of give you an idea. We look at his oldest version. This also would be more of a Forgotten Realms picture of it, but it works just fine when talking about it. He was in Thay. He had powerful enemies. He had some minor offenses. His adversaries humiliated him. And this is where kind of the things come in. They tattooed his head and body, and basically tattooed him with... The best way to describe it is effectively forced him to dress and tattoo with stuff that screams, I'm a woman. 90s. This is really 90s and not great. Yeah. You can see why it needed to be updated. Anyway, he devoted himself to his craft. Basically, came about a rival in romantic pursuits, slew the rival's lover, forced her to drink her sweetheart's blood, and then he slew her as well, and basically at this crime scene, ended up in Ravenloft, in his realm of Hazlik. It's a backstory. It's like, I was humiliated, and would be the easiest way to say it. I was humiliated and forced to cross-dress. Tattoo cross-dress. I don't know how that works. I guess in their society it somehow does. Got angry at some people. Slew a rival. Forced her to drink her sweetheart's blood. Ended up in Ravenloft. Yeah. He did get back to Thay during the Grand Conjunction, and discovered the children of those he had humiliated were rising in power. Tried to go against him, but then ended up back in Hazlik. Ravenloft reclaimed him. But, yeah, there's a lot of stupidness in that kind of thing. There's a lot of stupid here. Yeah. He also was very, like, in the old version here, I'm the only one with magic. My people are the only one magic. No one else is allowed to have it. So, yeah. This is one that I scream, oh yeah, change it. Let's talk about Van Richting's Guide to Ravenloft, Hazlik. This is better, but he's more of a monster. Old Hazlik, just some guy who killed some people and had them do some horrible things in kind of anger. This one here, we're red wizards with Thay, doing some horrible rituals, discovering some truths, changing reality, basically doing a lot of stuff. He had a rival with a fellow red wizard. Very contests, victories, embarrassments with the rival. Unable to defeat them. The red wizard, I'm going to butcher this name, Indrafricus? Indrafricus became his one true rival. And they had hate relations with each other. Yeah, they ended up passionate lovers and haters and rivals and stuff like that. So yeah, they drove each other to feats of magical brilliance, both revolutionary and unspeakable. But the two of them know a general peace, still as rivals, driving each other on rather than direct conflict. They know each other. Anyway, Hazlik here basically learned from the rulers of Thay that his lover was going to betray him. So he captured Indrafricus, subjected him to nightmarish experiments that turned him into a basically pain-racked living portal. Presented his creation to the rulers of Thay, the Zulkirs. Planning to impress him, the Zulkirs revealed that they had basically lied. That Hazlik's lover had not betrayed them. Basically, they were wary of both of their potential and wanted to get rid of them as threats. And they deemed this transformation as an abomination. So they wanted to punish it. So every rival has been defeated, basically can have a penance of their choosing upon it. Yeah. So the mob began to arrive for revenge, and he fled to the portal. That had been his lover. Anyway, he emerged in a place, modeled after himself, and it became the land of Hazlik, his nightmarish realm. But while he was there, more interestingly, he was covered in golden tattoos, evocative of symbols that mean traitor in his homeland. Hey, that's a lot more interesting than why he has all these tattoos. But he claimed himself the title of Zulkir and dubbed his new realm. Yeah. Much better story. Granted, you turn your leveler into a living portal and, subject them to all kinds of horror at the behest of the leaders of the country, which is completely evil and horrible and basically trick you into doing it, and then, you escaped through them into a realm that made you a traitor. Anyway, his lover still speaks to him. Yep. He's also got some problems, other than his vivid nightmares where his lover taunts him and about everything he does. He can't learn any magic. That's kind of one of his torments. He has kind of limitations. He uses a lot of magical items now. He does control his warders, watches everything, especially through these eyes of Hazlik that's everywhere. All the magic belongs to him. He experiments on people. Either you are a apprentice and can learn some magic and be useful to him, or you're an experiment. Which brings us to the country of Hazland and the two versions of it. Because again, 5th edition is so much better, because 2nd edition is just racist. Not in our sense. What it means is there are 2 ethnicities within Hazland, and one of them oppresses the other. The Mulans and Rasheni. So, yeah. Majority are Rasheni, and the others are Mulans. Mulans are the ruling class, and they mistreat the Rasheni. So, yeah. Ethnic divides are big in 2nd edition. That's great to get rid of. 5th edition, at very least, has more 2nd class, but much more 2nd class on you either use magic and are apprenticed to our Darklord, or you're just experimental fodder. It's still awful, but it's awful for... It makes Hazlik more of a monster rather than just an asshole. I really have to say, he's just kind of a horrible asshole in 2nd edition. He's a monster in Hazlik, in 5th edition, and much more deserves the title of Darklord. So yeah, it's a land of magic, where magic's important, and you're either an apprentice or a test subject. That's much better. Kind of. It's a weird thing to compare because it's still kind of awful, but it's awful in a different way. You know, I think it's the thing about Ravenloft and the Darklords. They're going to be awful people and do awful things. You just want it to be like the right kind of awful? I don't know. You can probably add in some of the... Anyway, there are stories you can tell with things like, you know, races and classes and prejudices and stuff like that. You can tell them stories, but usually you want a thing that you add in particular as a GM after working with your group for this. This is not something that's just written into the lore. Anyway, I've had discussing tabletops about this entire topic. Go check those out when we talk about these things. Anyway, there's a lot of magical dangers in Hazland and 5th edition. This is a map of it here, where I'm showing this the 5th edition map. Because, again, a lot of his experiments are just out there. Just let them go. Maybe you have an eye on you. Maybe you're an apprentice. Maybe you're just somebody that he's experimented on to figure. Those are the people of Hazlik. Anyway, we'll leave that there. God. It's interesting because I think that's one of the important things is we can have a lot of very tough stories and tough lore and things that are particularly dealing with classes, prejudices, races, sex in D&D stories. But usually, those are brought about when a DM, GM, knows their group can handle those things and talks to them about it ahead of time. Hey, I'm going to have a story that's going to deal with some of these things. I'm going to have a story that's going to deal with things that are darker tones. Are you okay with that if I add these into my story? Or do you want me to just to kind of keep things simple? Like, we don't talk about them very much. Maybe things are just going on. Those are better ways to deal with, because they are heavy story moments and can be either offensive or difficult to deal with people. You don't want it just bashed over your head. They do that in 2nd edition. A lot of the stuff in Hazlik is just, and his realm of Hazlik, is just kind of bashed over the head, in your face problems. Granted, how did they change that? Well, they changed him from just being kind of a asshole that had some terrible things happen to him to an actual monster. The Hazlik in 5th edition is earning his title of Darklord a lot more. He is magical experimentation to the extreme. An abuse of magic. A control of society. They tell a dark story in a way that is doesn't need to be offensive, but still can be dark and horror. They focus less on offense and more on horror. That's 5th edition. And that's why I think in this case, it really needed a rewrite. Desperately needed a rewrite. Super needed. I think this is a case where I can safely say 100% 5th edition does things so much better. These are the kind of things where I think we needed updates from 2nd edition, 5th edition, and we did it well here. And yeah, I honestly normally can recommend differences in looking into lore between the 2 editions. If you want to look into the old lore, just for maybe like details on cities, locations, and stuff like that, I'd say okay. But overall, I just don't think the old lore for Hazlik and Hazlik is good. So, stick with 5th edition. Maybe just use the 2nd edition stuff as a little bit of basis. My recommendation. Anyway, I'll leave that there. This was an interesting one to deal with and dive into and talk about. Hey, we end up talking about a bunch of serious stuff here in the end, too. Sometimes that happens. Yeah, there you go. I mean, there's always going to be a level of seriousness stuff when it comes to Ravenloft. It is horror, and horror is just that. It's horror, monsters, terrible things that are happening. Certainly speaking, the newer version lives up to it. But I hope you enjoyed diving into it with me. If you want to check out more of my stuff, I of course stream over at Twitch, uploaded all of my tabletop stuff over to YouTube. On the Twitch side, that's all my recordings of tabletop stuff, live plays when I do them, discussing tabletop Saturdays at 6 where we talk about news of the week, and deeper discussions on topics like this, about things like adding in serious stuff to your games. It is this particular type of tone. It isn't horror. It wasn't stuff that was needed in 2nd edition because it wasn't horror. And then, of course, also some gaming streams and stuff like that. If you want to check out a variety of games and stuff like that. All my YouTube uploads, they're usually on daily, 4 p.m. EST. My schedule's up there. And you can check out my schedule for all these things. I do put it up early in the week. And that's on my Discord, Blue Sky, Twitter/X, and that community page on my YouTube. Just let you know about that. And any kind of updates and changes in the schedule, anything like that, is in those social media places. Check them out. Alright, I'm going to get going. We'll hang out on Twitch chat, maybe do some other stuff, recordings, all those kind of things. Until the next time we dive into Ravenloft or any Dark Realms and chat about this. And, or go anywhere else, D&D, or the lore, whatever, tabletop. I bid all of you out there a deep and wonderful farewell.